Have you ever had that one person in your life who simply amazes you? Maybe it's because that person inspires you more than any other. St. Pope John Paul II not only inspired people, but he also greatly impacted them for his love of youth, the love of the Holy Eucharist, and the love of the Virgin Mary. I am a devout Catholic, and I was blessed to live a portion of my life when Pope John Paul II was Pope. In addition to this, because I found him such an inspiration, I have read several books on Pope John Paul II. Catholic or not, we can all appreciate and admire how Pope John Paul II was truly admired for his love for one another, for his love for another person, and for his selfless love to everyone. Today, I will be giving tribute to St. John Paul II by reviewing some of his greatest achievements, mentioning some interesting facts about him, and sharing how he has inspired me. Let's begin by looking at an overview of his life. St. John Paul II had many achievements that we can look, but we're only going to look over a few of them. Catholic Weekly, a Catholic news website, stated, John Paul II was a seasoned traveler and reached all corners of the world. He made 104 international trips and visited over 130 countries. In terms of mileage, it's enough to go around the world 30 times. That is an insane amount of traveling. He traveled like this to connect with people. If this does not impress you, I don't know what will. According to the Christian Broadcasting Network, Pope John Paul II was the longest serving pope in the 20th century. The next closest was Pius XII, who was pope for 19 years. St. John Paul II was pope for over 20 years. In total, he was pope for 27 years. That's an impressive feat, especially since he had his life attempt on his life twice, as he was shot twice. That leads us to some interesting facts about St. John Paul II. Catholic Culture, our Catholic website, stated, Pope John Paul II was wounded when he was attacked by a fanatical priest during a visit to Fatima in 1982, his former secretary has revealed. 1 year after he was shot by Mahit Ali Akia, the pontiff was assassinated by a bayonet-wielding Spanish cleric. As the quote states, within 2 years, St. John Paul II was shot twice. Here's the best part though. JP2, as he was affectionately referred to by those who loved him, forgave his shooter. He made a trip to his would-be assassin prison cell to tell him he personally forgave him. Loyola Press, a Catholic news site, stated, the ceremony for the canonization of John Paul II took place in 2014. For those of you who might not know, canonization is a process that takes place after someone has met a set number of specific criteria regarding holiness, and therefore is elevated to sainthood. As though I have already not mentioned enough about why he is such an inspirational figure, let me tell you why St. John Paul inspires me. He spoke to the youth in a way that reached them where they were. He was the Pope that created World Youth Day. In fact, we had World Youth Day in Denver in 1993. Vatican.va states one of Pope John Paul II's quotes, Dear young people, let yourselves be taken over by the light of Christ and spread that light wherever you go. Pope John Paul II was also responsible for a series called Theology of the Body. These lectures addressed young and old on how they should view their bodies, their sexuality, and their purpose. We all have someone who influences us for many reasons. That person for me was St. John Paul II. He inspired the youth by being the first pope to truly prioritize drawing the youth to the church. For some, their admiration might be from the facts that he lived through 2 assassination attempts and remained genuinely forgiving and loving person. St. John Paul II impacts so many people's lives, and this can be seen through the documentation of his life and his own writings, as well as the books that were written about him. Thank you. Any questions?
How old was Pope John Paul when he passed away?
Asked how old was Pope John Paul when he passed away? He was 84 years old. Yeah.
How many attended World Youth Day?
And the Denver one, how many attended World Youth Day? And the Denver one in 1993, over 100,000 youth attended that one. Thank you.